What would you describe as rock bottom for you?
Oh boy. It was definitely the last 3 months of my using. I had collapsed some of the veins in my arm because I'd been using so much. So I was sitting like poking around, like trying to find a vein, which is very painful. I would use until I passed out, and I could be using for 24 or 48 hours straight. I would pass out, I'd get up the next day and say, like I have to get my act together. And I just, the sort of the mental challenge of doing that was just overwhelming. So the solution was I'll just get high again. And that's what it was like. I was hoping that I would overdose and then that would solve my problems.
Wow.
But I didn't have the courage to kill myself.
Vancouver is a city of gleaming towers, fancy restaurants, and high-end shops. But just a short walk from all of that is a much different world. The downtown Eastside, where the dangers of addiction are always easy to find. This is also where Gordon Lownds found himself, at the pinnacle of his career as CEO of one of Canada's most successful retailers. He was wandering these alleyways in search of the cocaine that had taken over his life. He considers himself one of the rare lucky ones to survive these streets and his addiction. And for the first time in nearly 30 years, he's come back to the downtown East Side to share his story. So how does it feel to be walking here?
Oh, it brings back bad memories for sure. And I've been in a lot of these alleys, mostly at nighttime, and they're dangerous places to be. I almost got knifed in one alley, and yeah, it's a rough place.
I'm curious, when you look around here and you look into the faces of the people who are on the streets of the downtown East Side,
Yeah.
what do you see?
I see sadness, despair, and complete hopelessness.
For Gordon Lownds, that life of sadness, despair, and hopelessness began with a single, terrible decision he made nearly 30 years ago. I want to start with the moment in your life that I think changed everything, and that was the first time that you smoked crack cocaine. Take us to that moment.
Yeah. So I ended up with getting involved with the ultimate femme fatale. She was a stripper from Seattle. I've been dating her for about a year when I was in Seattle every couple of weeks on business. She ended up moving in with me in Vancouver. And within 2 months of her moving in, I discovered that she had a drug problem. I came home one day early and she was all messed up and broke down and admitted that she was a drug addict. She'd been an addict since she was 16 years old. We got her into treatment a couple of times. It didn't work. I basically said to her, I can't live with someone who's an addict like this. Like, it's just not, I'm too busy and I don't want to have that stress. And she basically said, I'll leave, but at least try it with me once and you'll be able to see how it makes me feel and you'll have a bit more empathy for my situation. So on a Friday night, we sat down on the kitchen table. She handed me a crack pipe.
And at that point in your life, you're 48 years old.
Yeah.
You had not used any drugs at all,
Right.
except one time hash when you were like 20 years old.
Yeah. So I didn't do drugs. I was around them in the music business back in the 70s, and I just didn't try them. I didn't drink much, and so I didn't have any of those sort of tendencies. So it was a complete shock to me that at the age of 48, by smoking crack once, and I thought I was invincible. I figured I could do this. It's not a big deal. I'll survive, and it caught me.
The passage in your book where you describe this moment is incredible. I'd like you to read it for us here. It begins with seconds after exhaling.
Okay. Seconds after exhaling, a powerful rush of euphoria washes over me. Exploding in a kaleidoscopic starburst inside my brain, a supersized supernova. I'm engulfed by an overwhelming, mind-blowing meteor shower of ecstasy that wraps me in a cozy cocoon of pure joy. and then a vast calm, like the eerie stillness of floating in outer space. In a New York second, I'm feeling very fine, then fantastic, and then fucking awesome.
And that feeling was so powerful that for the next, I don't know, 1,000 days,
Yeah.
it was the most important thing in your life.
Yeah, yeah. Getting high solved all of my problems. When you're stressed about work, or you're stressed about being an addict, and you're stressed about people finding out, getting high is the solution. It just makes you feel better.
And the extraordinary thing is, while you were doing this on Friday nights and Saturdays and Sundays here in Vancouver, you were continuing as the CEO
Yeah.
of Sleep Country, one of the most successful retailers in Canada.
Yeah.
Tell me about your work week.
So Christine McGee and I basically split responsibilities. So she was managing most of the day-to-day business, the sales force, the distribution, the accounting, administration, and I handled all the real estate, merchandising, relationships with vendors and stuff. So very little of my time was spent with people within Sleep Country, was spent with external people. And so I managed my own agenda. And so I could basically tell people, I've got a meeting in Toronto, I'll be gone for 2 days, and then I go and get high for 2 days, and no one would know the difference. And when we were opening in Calgary, I would tell them, the people in Toronto that I was in Calgary, the people in Vancouver that I was in Seattle. So it was this, basically game of moving things around.
Okay, but other than the deception, were you actually getting stuff done? Were you getting your work done?
Yeah, no, I was functioning very well. Cocaine gets out of your system within about 48 hours or so. And so you can appear and actually function in a very normal way. And I was mostly a workaholic at the time. So I had, that determination and drive to really get the stuff done that needed to be done at work, and not have it affect my life.
As incredible as all of that is, it eventually did affect your life, and you couldn't keep these two parts of your life going.
Yeah, so the stress of people finding out that I was messed up, and I was getting increasingly messed up, on a regular basis, and I didn't think I could carry off the charade anymore. So I was constantly terrified that I would get caught out in some, outrageous lie, and there were a lot of outrageous lies that I told to account for where I was supposed to be, but I wasn't. And so it was like this huge sort of tidal wave of stress building and building and building and building. I ended up shooting up cocaine within a year of that first hit on a crack pipe. And by May of 1998, I couldn't hold it together. I was certain that I was going to crash and everybody would find out. So I took a leave of absence from work, and I told my partners that I would be back on the job by Labor Day, and I figured 3 months, I'll have enough time to get myself clean and sober, with no stress, no distractions, and all I did was basically just continue to go downhill. So I was completely isolated, basically shooting up cocaine on a daily basis.
And at one point, this executive from Sleep Country, Canada, is walking around here in the downtown Eastside trying to score drugs.
Yeah. I've been in and out of the alleyways, and I had learned by that time that the way you can score drugs in almost any city in North America is if you find a street hooker, they always have a drug connection. And so I would come down here, look for a hooker, get her drug connection, and then hook up with a dealer.
I mean, to hear that story, to look at you,
Yeah.
to know who you were
Yeah.
as this executive, and to hear you came down to the downtown East Side to find a hooker, to find drugs, is mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I've been through the alleyways down here. I've been here like at 4 a.m. I've been stopped by the police down here. I had to go and basically bail out my girlfriend out of the Brandy's Hotel one night because she was in there buying drugs, and some guy was basically holding her hostage, and I had to come down here and go up to the room and pay the guy $200 to let her go. So it's an incredible world that is just unbelievable.
What would you describe as rock bottom for you?
Oh boy. It was definitely the last 3 months of my using. I had collapsed some of the veins in my arm because I'd been using so much. So I was sitting like poking around, like trying to find a vein, which is very painful. I would use until I passed out, and I could be using for 24 or 48 hours straight. I would pass out. I'd get up the next day and say, like, I have to get my act together. And the sort of the mental challenge of doing that was just overwhelming. So the solution was I'll just get high again. And that's what it was like. I was hoping that I would overdose and then that would solve my problems.
Wow.
But I didn't have the courage to kill myself.
After more than 1,000 days of being addicted to cocaine, Gordon Lownds, still the CEO of Sleep Country Canada, turned to his friend and company co-founder to finally ask for help.
2 days past my deadline that I had set for myself, I broke down and phoned Steve Gunn and I said, look, I've had some health problems, but what you don't know is that I've got a cocaine problem and it's really bad. And I thought that he was just gonna blast off at me and being really upset with me. And he surprised me. He said, I'm really sorry. What can I do to help? So it was a kind of compassion that I didn't know existed, and I didn't believe I was willing, or I was able to accept it.
And really incredible, even today, but in 1998,
Yeah.
for him to have that compassionate view is extraordinary.
Yeah.
You're pretty honest in your book about a lot of things, including, and I hope you don't mind this characterization, seems like you were a bit of a jerk as you went through the recovery process.
Yeah, that's probably true. I was used to being in charge. I was used to people paying attention to what I said. I had a very competitive streak. And actually when Steve Gunn drove me up to the treatment center, he said, Gord, do me a favor. Just, it's not a competition. Like, you don't have to prove you're smarter than they are. And I had some challenges with that. And as I was lucky enough, they basically were going to kick me out of the treatment center after my first 2 weeks because I was not behaving well. And they finally said, we're going to give you, put you in the care of Dr. Cooney, who's the sort of chief medical officer. And he was the guy who handled the hard cases. And he absolutely leveled me. And he basically is one of the reasons I'm clean and sober.
There's a debate going on in Canada about harm reduction versus treatment.
Yeah.
And you're not an addiction expert, but you are an expert on your own story.
Yeah.
And so as you hear that, should people who are addicted be given access to clean drugs? Should they not be, and forced into treatment? There are all kinds of permutations there.
Yeah.
What's your view of that?
My view is that if you can put an addict in touch with another human being who would be available when the addict decides that they need to turn their life around, then any way you put them in touch with that person, with that outside individual, is a benefit. So whether it's harm reduction, whether it's treatment, whether it's safe supply, to me it doesn't matter as long as you're putting the addict in touch with a human being who can be there for them when they're ready to turn their life around.
In 1998, while you were going through the throes of this, I was doing a lot of stories on the downtown Eastside. And I look now here, and it looks the same as it did back then.
Yeah.
Will it ever change?
Oh, I used to be told that, roughly 10% of the people who try to get clean and sober are successful, which is really, really depressing on its own. I understand that, with some new meds that are available today, it's up to sort of 15, 20, 25%, but it's still a percentage. And when you look at the combination of the homeless problems here, the mental health problems, the addiction problems, I don't understand how we'll ever get out of it. I do know that I think a core solution starts with housing. Because when you get people off the street and into housing, then they regain some of their dignity and they have some hope that maybe they can turn their life around.
You made a decision to write an incredibly candid book. You didn't hold anything back. And your story's out there now for everyone to read. What do you hope the impact of your story will be?
The major reason I put it out there was to let people know that addiction can happen to anyone at any time in their life, in any level of the social spectrum. And it can happen for any number of reasons. So no one is basically guaranteed that I'll be okay. And so basically you have to avoid the situations that I stepped into where I thought I was invincible. And, with the drugs out there these days, no one is protected. So I wanted that message to get out there that it's not just people that you see on the street in the downtown Eastside. It covers the whole spectrum. And secondly, that no matter how messed up people are, there is always hope that you can turn your life around. And it's never too late to make that decision to ask for help and accept the help. And the biggest challenge that people have who are addicts is basically asking for help. And I refuse to ask for help. I just, I was too proud, and pride can kill you, as they say. So what I did do was accept the help when it was offered, basically because I didn't think I had a choice. So I was lucky in that sense.
And you're better now?
Yeah.
You answered that almost too quickly.
I'm better now. I'm much more humble. I'm incredibly grateful for the life that I've been able to get back to. I've rekindled and basically fixed the relationships with my daughter, which I really seriously damaged. Like when I got messed up, she was like 17 years old. And it's one of the reasons I didn't publish the book back 20 years ago, because I didn't want to have it affect her. And so yeah, my life has returned, to somewhat normal. I'm now a recluse on Vancouver Island, so what better place to be?
Well, thank you for telling the story. It's a great read, and it's really nice talking to you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.